Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I just want to introduce you to someone who I have come to know over the last few years, and I am so impressed with his background and his experience. Particularly, what we're going to talk about today is compensation plans and the industry in general. We get a lot of questions about this. So, we decided rather than just some of the episodes where we've tackled that topic, we would bring in an expert, somebody who has a financial background and experience in multi-level marketing, network marketing, compensation plans. So I'm bringing you the best of the best, and you're going to hear why. Kent Wood, with his bachelor's degree and master's degree in accounting from BYU, has spent over 30 years of his career auditing, consulting for, and leading some of the largest and most successful network marketing companies. His functions and titles over the years have included Chief Financial Officer, Chief Operating Officer, President, Chief Executive Officer, and Chairman. He has founded, invested in, and served on the boards of 4 different direct selling companies with a variety of companies that have fostered that with cumulative aggregate revenues of over $3 billion. Those companies have fostered over $100 million earners in the industry, and countless of families around the world have benefited from the additional income stream as independent distributors with these enterprises. Kent has hosted meetings and events in 38 countries around the world, even lived in the Dominican Republic for 2 years, during which he learned Spanish. And he was recognized as one of Utah Business Magazine's 40 Under 40, an annual recognition of Utah's most successful and significant businessmen under the age of 40. In addition to his corporate roles, he has also served on boards for nonprofit and charity organizations. I'm so thrilled for us to dig into this subject and unpack it with someone as knowledgeable and experienced as you, Kent. So thank you for joining us today.
Laura and Janine, thank you for the invite. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, let's start off with, tell us a little bit about you and your family.
I am the luckiest guy on earth. I married an amazing person 31 years ago who's just been willing to ride through me on the entrepreneurial ventures, the experiences that we've had together as a couple. And she certainly, I am who I am because I married an amazing lady. And then we were blessed with 5 daughters. When I was dating Melanie, my wife, she wasn't terribly enthusiastic about my red hair. And so I promised her that if she'd just marry me, we wouldn't have to have redheaded kids. But we've got 5 gorgeous daughters with some shade of red in every one of them. They're great kids. 2 are married. We've got 3 grandkids. One is getting married this summer. Not sure when the podcast comes out. Hopefully they've made the engagement public before I'm in trouble. And then we've got 2 daughters in Chinese immersion programs still in middle school and elementary school. So it took us a long time to get the 5 girls here, but they're here and they fill our life abundantly.
Oh, that is so wonderful. That's so wonderful. Yeah, I've heard you talk about your activities and support and just interaction with your family and things that you guys do as a family. And that's outstanding. I'm so happy to hear that side of you too. So let's jump into, how did you first hear about network marketing or MLM? Who introduced you? What did you think when you heard about it? How'd that all come about?
So Laura, I was raised on a dairy farm in rural Idaho. My father was a banker and decided to buy the dairy farm because his children weren't learning to work hard enough. And so he put us to work on the dairy farm. The dairy farm was a great place to raise kids. It's not at least back in the 70s, not a great place to make any money. And so my mother got involved in a bunch of party plan companies to help put food on the table. And she did that for probably 20 years, my entire upbringing. We had that component to our life. When I was a freshman in college, I jumped into a network marketing opportunity on the distributor side, excited to pay for my education. I didn't have the background or experience that you amazing ladies have to evaluate what I should have been asking at the time. And as a 150-pound college freshman, I joined a weight loss MLM. And I was trying to gain weight and build weight. And it just, yeah, obviously, I didn't do my homework. I didn't go through the process that your podcast listeners are in the middle of. And it, if nothing else, it was an amazing learning experience for me from one other component or one other way to look at this industry. And then about a year after that, I joined a company working for their data entry center, a large, at the time, it was a small growing network marketing company that is now about 3 billion in annual revenue. But I was able to start seeing these companies, the opportunities from the corporate side. And I've been in corporate or in public accounting auditing these companies for the last 30 plus years.
And how did you get started with the corporate side then?
So I was attending Brigham Young University in their accounting program, and my goal was to try and get into that particular company's accounting department. I had two brothers who at the time were working for that company in different roles. So they were critical to getting me in the right interviews to at least start with the data entry group. And it was mundane, Janine. It was 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. before school started, before my classes started. And I guess coming from a dairy farm, people assumed that I would like the 4 a.m. part. But I would go in and enter all of the stacks of faxes that were distributor applications. This was pre-internet enrollment, pre-app, pre any of the great tools that we have in the industry today. This was before all of that. And so I would take this stack of distributor applications off of the fax machine and put them into the system. So that was my first corporate job. And from then I've done a lot of different things in this industry.
Wow, that is so funny. I remember those days, the fax.
Exactly.
So you've had a lot of experience with different companies on that side. So what has that taught you about this business model?
So first and foremost, it's an amazing model, Janine, and some of the most amazing business stories, leadership stories, personal growth experiences, both for myself and for people that I've been around, are found in this model. There are amazing people who do incredible good around the world in this model. Having said that, I also spent 2 years of my career auditing companies. And I can assure you that not all companies are created equal. Not all plans are created equal or fair. It gave me the ability to discern between those that are not companies, those that are companies that I wouldn't want to be associated with. And it's not my place to kick them out of the industry or to tell those owners or those people what they can or cannot do. That's their choice. And it's just like any other industry out there that we're involved with, that we shop from. There are good and bad companies across the entire spectrum. Most importantly, what it taught me is to find those great companies and those great people and align with them. And it's made my life beautiful.
I love that you're talking about this because one of my frustrations about our profession is that a lot of people will have a brush with a particular network marketing company and they just assume that all companies are exactly the same and all experiences are the same. And so one of the things that we really want to help people understand is that companies are different, just like they are in any situation, and each one has its own culture and they're just not all created equally. So I love that you're talking about that. So what should someone look for in a company, in your opinion, based on this experience that you've had?
So my belief, and again, this is just me speaking. This isn't coming from anyone just other than how I would look at it. But for me, it always starts with the people. You can have the best business plan, and with the wrong people, it's going to fail. You can have the best products ever, and without the right people in place, those products aren't going to go anywhere. When I reference people, I'm including your team, your leadership group, and the corporate staff. Those three components of people, those three groups of people, are what will have an impact on whether you are successful or not, whether you're happy or not. And with each of those, you're looking at different elements, but all three have to be in place. The right people have to be in place for any company to accomplish what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, that is so important. And those are things that we encourage people to consider about the culture and the values of a company and the fit with them. And like you said about your experience in auditing companies and the diverse approaches that companies might have to things, which exist in any industry, we come back to the compensation question because it always seems that whoever is prospecting someone else is saying that they've got the best compensation plan at, their company. And there's a lot of confusion around the significance of the compensation plan, as well as what is a better compensation plan. And I know in my experience and in yours as well, there are clues as to whether a plan represents the values of a company, I've seen. And there's clues as to whether it's designed to favor the distributor, to favor the customer, or to favor the company, or whether there's a balance being struck between those. So talk to us a little bit and give us some definitions, because sometimes people hear binary and unilevel and stair step breakaway and their head's spinning. They don't understand what any of that means. Will you help define some of those basic terms for us? And then just talk to us a little bit about what should somebody be looking for and taking into consideration in a compensation plan at a company?
Gladly, Laura. And I appreciate you taking my kind of one topic response that I gave Janine with respect to what should we look for. And I would still leave that answer the same, that it starts with people, but then you have to check all of the other boxes before you make the decision to move. And it's product, it's what countries they're in, how they operate, but the compensation plan is fundamental in that process. And I'm not here to talk about all of the other boxes that you need to check or uncheck with respect to evaluating a company. You specifically asked me to address the compensation plan component. And so in terms of those comp plans, most importantly is, can you understand it? Can you, whether it's in a 10-minute conversation or less, can you have a conversation with the person that's talking to you and understand what you have to do to get paid? There will always be elements. There will be, 2-inch thick documents describing exactly the terms and conditions of that business. But can you understand and therefore teach the compensation plan is critical. You referenced the confusing nature of compensation plans, Laura. And I think from my experience, there are a lot of companies that create confusion in their compensation plan because they don't want to be held accountable for what it is that they're committing to do. And that drives me crazy. It's not fair for customers. It's not fair for partners who are building this with the company. But from my experience, they do it to try and create loopholes that creates what I call breakage to the company. It eliminates a lot of the success that people can have and therefore help fund what the company is doing. Now, most companies across the entire industry have similar margins from how they price the product, from the total that they're going to pay out. And so it's not that difficult to be transparent about what a company is going to pay. The reason why they would create confusion is to reallocate funds towards certain classes or groups of their field at the expense of others. And so first and foremost, can you understand, and therefore can you teach what you're being asked to do? Second, with the second question that I would figure out is, can my people, can my team make money? It's one thing for a leader like the two of you who have had tremendous success to be able to look at an opportunity and go out and be successful with it. You've been successful in multiple places. You're both incredibly successful now. That isn't the question, whether or not you can be successful. Can the people that you bring into that opportunity be successful? And what's going to determine that would be how the compensation plan is built and what tools do people who don't have your experience, what tools are at their disposal to go out and be successful? So Laura, you asked me to highlight a few of the common compensation plans out there. And I'll just touch on each of them briefly. There are breakaway plans, where these are typically older plans that would have been built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And basically, you have to build a certain number of leaders that get to a point where they can break off and have their own organization. And you're rewarded for having those, but often you don't get paid until those teams start breaking away into their own organizations. These plans take an awful long time to build. They can be extremely expensive for people to build, and there are people who make millions of dollars per year with these plans. It's just not a plan that I would choose in our group, in any company that I'm aligned with, primarily because of the lack of middle class that fosters continuity, that fosters stability in an organization. The next plan that I'll touch on is a matrix plan. And basically that's a structured plan that as you enroll people, they're going to, if it's a 3x3 matrix, for example, the first person that you enroll is going to go on your first level left side. The next person that you enroll is going to go first level middle, the next person first level right, and you start building out this perfectly formed matrix. The concept behind matrix is one of simplicity, because people don't have to understand structure as much. They can just be out recruiting. The downside to matrix plans is that they rely on people staying in the business. And with any business, whether it's network marketing, supplement companies, or gym memberships, or movie clubs, whatever it is that people are in, there's always a portion of that subset that are going to fall out every single month. And with a matrix, having people fall out starts to erode the entire organization based on the requirements of having a completed matrix. Party plan, I referenced that my mom did 20 plus years of party plan businesses. Most of these companies leverage free product and incentive trips as their primary way of rewarding people. So their cash payout is significantly less than a lot of the other programs that are out there. It's, again, there are great companies, great products available in that. There's a lot fewer, as a percentage goes, a lot fewer people that can make a full-time income in those organizations than a lot of the other structures that I'll be talking about. Binary plan is the next category that I'll refer to. And Laura, I just want to highlight that all of what I'm saying is just a very summarized, condensed overview. I realize that within each of these categories, there are hundreds of thousands of different actual plans out there. So I'm doing my best to just give a 60-second introduction on each of these without, if someone's looking at a specific binary plan, take what I'm saying and then dig into the specifics of that actual plan. Binaries started to come out, I would say, in the 1990s, early 2000s. They're very popular in international markets. There are a high percentage of binary plans that don't last more than 5 to 6 years. They burn out very quickly, which is a shame. It's often motivated by people that want to be paid based on the time that they entered or the position that they entered in, as opposed to the team that they're actually building. There are people who, again, make millions of dollars every year with binary plans. That same person in a different position in that binary could have a much different income and a much different experience. And so I would just caution someone looking at a binary to make sure that you understand where you're going, because there are only two legs. You can go in the power leg or you can go in the lesser leg, and you're going to get a lot more help in one of those than the other. And so it's just, I personally don't like binaries because of the carnage that exists from all of these people that had a similar timing, but didn't get the advantage of the placement of some of those that are having success. My preferred plan, obviously, I'm biased, is a unilevel plan. For me, it's a lot easier to understand. It's a lot more transparent in how the plan pays out. And again, there are tens of thousands of different versions of unilevel plans. So make sure you understand how your specific plan pays out. But for me, I love the middle class that can be built with a unilevel. For someone to have the success that you two ladies have had, you need a massive organization. And to be able to get paid on that organization, people have to have enough success that they continue to stay with you. And I love the staying power that unilevels can create.
That was so good. Thank you so much I appreciate you providing just a broad stroke of, first of all, let's talk about these terms, because sometimes the person that is promoting that opportunity to you is also not familiar with what the terms are. And sometimes, that person that maybe that you're learning about, or that company that you're learning about, may be the one and only that you've really learned about and discovered. And you're not aware of the different choices that a company can make in terms of how they're going to compensate. And I love that you shared, and we talked about this in our episode about products are overpriced, that objection that we run into, that's a myth about the multi-level marketing, network marketing industry. But we talked about there's an advertising budget for every company. Facebook has everybody has an advertising budget. And within the multi-level marketing industry, there's not a wide gap in terms of the advertising dollars. And it goes to pay individuals rather than to, radio or TV or newspapers or whatever. So I love that you reinforce that. And it's all a matter of how it's being allocated, as you also shared. So I just really appreciate the lesson that you gave everybody on that. And I know it'll be listened to over and over again to help people decipher when they do come across a description or a name of a plan, so they understand a little bit more about, oh, I remember hearing about this one, and now I know that these are some things I should look for or look out for with it.
Is there any practical, I'm just thinking about all the terms, and I'm telling you, I just think I've gotten books on this topic, and because we've written books, it's kind of like it's something that people want us to address. And yet truly it's so confusing. And I'm just wondering if there's any really practical tip that, for sure you talked about people, and can the person that's sponsoring you or you getting into this business, can you sort of explain it in general, how somebody gets paid? Is there anything else that you would say to somebody just as a tip to just address the compensation piece?
So Janine, great question. And because of the thousands of different plans out there, it's almost a an individualized approach to look at a plan and evaluate what are the criteria and what is the likelihood that I'm going to be successful or not with this particular plan. Having said that, from a truly specific evaluation standpoint, I think a couple of key topics that you can look at in the early stages of the evaluation is how many people are required for you to reach whatever income goal it is that you've set for yourself. And when looking at that specific opportunity, understand how many key builders you need to work with to be able to reach that level. There are people who $500 a month can be life-changing for them. And so in that evaluation, what kind of recruiting activity do you need? What kind of team structure do you have to reach that $500 per month? For other people, $500 a month would be an insult. And if they can't reach $5,000 a month, then they aren't even going to take the time to look at that opportunity. So for them, it will be a similar evaluation, but require very different formulas to determine what they have to do the 5,000. So it starts with what you need individually, what it is that you hope to get from this business, and then translate that into what you would have to do. Janine, that would be the initial advice that I would give people in just understanding whatever it is that you want to reach for, determine how you get there, and then you can evaluate whether or not it's possible. Have you got the right people and product to be able to accomplish that? And if not, don't waste your time pursuing it. If it is possible and you can actually achieve what it is that you define as your objective, then run after it with full passion, with full effort and enthusiasm, so that you can get to that level. And once you get to that level, then you need to make sure and set your next part of the plan so that you can take that 500 a month and turn it into something more significant should you want to keep building.
I love that response. That is just ties it all up into a nice, neat little bow, because I think it definitely personalizes it. And it's tough to have this kind of a conversation when everybody's goals with their business is so different. So I love that. Thank you so much for saying that. So as we end on kind of a fun note, we always like to ask our guests, are there any books that you're listening to or reading right now that you would like to share with us? And any gadget or lesson or anything that's making your life easier these days?
What great questions. What fun questions. I'm motivated to go find the other episodes of your podcast so that I can get some new book ideas from all of your other guests. So first of all, thanks for coming up with kind of a fun diversion from compensation plans. The current book that I'm in the middle of is one called The Hard Things About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. He's a tech entrepreneur, goes through all of the experiences that he had in building companies, getting funding for companies, selling companies, and building a business is not for the faint of heart. Building a business, whether it's in this industry or any other, is going to be challenging. Just to preface, there's some strong language in that book that I wasn't aware of as I dove into it. So for those of you not wanting to make sure that you avoid it, I've given the warning, but there's some great business ideas, business concepts that help us as entrepreneurs. Over the holidays, I reread Think and Grow Rich, just one of the staples as I go about setting my goals for the new year. I always go into that process just trying to make sure that I'm understanding where it is that I want to put my time and what activities can help me be successful. And then one of the other ones that I re-referenced as we were building our corporate plans for 2021, I went back to certain chapters of Built to Last, a book that I refer to often, just as we're developing strategies. It's one of those books that is easy to jump back into just to try and reemphasize a couple of key business building topics. Gadgets or lessons. Thank goodness for the gadgets that we do have. It's so funny. Just when I think of all of the gadgets that are out there, one of the things that my wife asked for Christmas was a shoehorn because she had lost hers. And so when you boil down all of the tools that make our life a little easier, that was probably the least expensive Christmas gift I ever had to go chase down. But just grateful for the tools, especially in today's COVID environment. Grateful for Zoom and the ability to see people's facial expressions as we meet with them, even though we're prevented from being with them. So nothing new that the people listening to your podcast aren't already plugged into.
Yes, very good. Well, hey, a shoehorn can save somebody a lot of time and aggravation. So I'm right there with her. Sometimes the best gadgets are not necessarily the newer ones as much as the tried and true ones. So that's good. Hey, as we wrap up too, Kent, we know that in the industry there are a lot of philanthropic, and we know that money in the hands of good people can do great things. So we always like to ask our guests, what causes are you behind these days? What are you supporting? What kind of cause are you, gravitating towards?
So Laura, this is heavily influenced by my own family. Which I think is an important part of any cause that we're participating in. And the reason why the causes that I'm most involved with right now are because I've been able to create experiences with my daughters. So Operation Smile is a group that sends dentists and other medical professionals into third world countries to do lip and cleft palate repair. I've been able to go on a couple of their missions and involve my daughters in that. There's another group that built schools in Africa, Choice Humanitarian, and I helped one of my daughters get a group of about 10 youth do a bunch of fundraising activities, and then we went down and built 3 rooms onto the school in this village in Kenya. So for me, and there's so many good charitable organizations, so much good that needs to happen in the world. As a company that I'm currently with, we're involved in Mission 22 that does veteran support, 2020 Mom that helps with some of the issues that brand new moms have to deal with, and others. So there's no shortage of great programs. For me personally, Laura, it's what can my daughters get excited about enough that they would actually use their own money, use their time to try and raise additional money. Mm-hmm. And that's where our family aligns.
Yeah, that is wonderful. That is wonderful, and such a complete view all around about how we generate and also how we can be generous. So I love what you shared with us. Thank you for your time. I know your time's valuable, so thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm sure that this will be an episode shared over and over again.
Thank you, Laura and Janine. Congratulations for the success that you're having, both with the podcast as well as your individual businesses. Let's go make a big difference.
Thank you.